I'm coming for
Heavy escape! I can't take any more! Fire!
right over in hell! Borum, stop that gun! I'm back!
Oh, look at me!
I'm burning! Tidwalak! I'm back!
We need a sentry around here. Sentry down!
Everyone, get to the cart!
Do you wait for heaven to kill you?
Pyro, I am going to strangle you! Help!
This high. Gotcha! Doc, I am a better man.
I'm burning!
I am going to tear out your very soul!
Require assistance! I am melting!
Medic! You just signed your death warrant!
Pyro, sorry. Help me! Pyro! Yes, I know!
Welcome to an in-depth guide on the Dragon's Fury stats and strategies. If you're new to the game, you might want to turn back. This is for more experienced players. This guide is just a combination of data from other sources combined with the personal experience, thoughts, and opinions of my good friend, MetaGaming, otherwise known as Defunkin' Scout. This guide was written in its entirety by them. I just have the honor of transferring it to video form, so please direct all of your praise towards them. To get things started, here are the stats of the weapon, including the hidden ones. The Fireball travels at the speed of 3,000 hammer units per second with a range longer than most of Pyro's flamethrowers. For comparison, the speed of the Fireball is just as fast as the Flying Guillotine, the Sandman's Baseball, the Man-Melter's Flare, and the Rap Assassin's Ornament. Please note that all other flamethrowers will change their range depending on Pyro's speed, but the Fireball will always reach the same distance regardless of movement. The Fireball from the Dragon's Fury counts as a projectile, meaning it can be deleted by the short circuit and reflected by an enemy Pyro via an air blast. Be warned, however, because there is no visual indication for either scenario. And for those of you who have been around since Jungle Inferno, the Dragon Fury's two biggest issues, colliding with invisible bounding boxes and colliding with other projectiles such as medic syringes, were fixed in a November update back in 2021. And before even that, another colliding issue was fixed back in September in 2021. The Fireball will be deleted if it touches any surface, unlike flame particles. However, it exists for a short period and can penetrate through multiple players and buildings. The stats say that it does 300% damage to burning players. That's semi-correct, but in reality, what it should also say though is that it deals minus 66% damage to non-burning players. This is because the base damage of the Dragon's Fury is 75, not 25. The evidence lies here with the engineer's buildings, as they will always take the base damage of the weapon hitting it and aren't affected by any type of damage ramp up or fall off. Normally, it takes 0.8 seconds before you can shoot again with the Dragon's Fury, but the bonus decreases it to 0.6, not 0.4 seconds. However, due to the Fireball's traveling speed, the time can average 50%, and you also have a 0.6 second window to shoot again before the bonus effect wears off. If the target is not burning, you must hit the center of the Fireball onto a target's hitbox in order to get the faster firing speed. But if the target is burning and the Fireball's edge hits the enemy, it will still give you the firing speed bonus, but you won't get the damage bonus. Afterburn on the Dragon's Fury works similar to flame particles in that the longer the enemy makes contact with flame particles, the longer the afterburn. However, this weapon only shoots one fireball and not multiple flames, so you need to land at least 3 shots on a burning enemy to reach the maximum 8 seconds of afterburn. Quick notes here: most likely to balance out the faster firing and damage bonuses, the Dragon's Fury cannot deal random crits. Oh, and regardless of who caused the afterburn, if you shoot the fireball center at a burning enemy, you will still get the 300% damage bonus. Now I know what you're thinking.
But what about those enemy gamers who are immune to Afterburn? Surely they can't be affected by the bonus damage because the Afterburn goes away too fast, right?
Wrong!
Despite it saying immune, in reality you can still combo enemy pyros and Darwin Danger Shielded snipers as the Afterburn is active for 0.5 seconds. Just barely enough to combo on those two with both the faster firing speed and the bonus damage. However, if you're fighting a Darwin Shielded sniper, it might look like you're dealing less damage even if he still burns for a brief moment. This is probably due to the other upside of the Darwin's Danger Shield. Also, when the target is already on fire, a knockback effect can occur if you shoot the center of the fireball near their legs, kind of like a weaker air blast. Speaking of air blast on the Dragon's Fury takes twice as long to recover, leaving you really open for punishment. You have to drag around 1.6 seconds of recovery time instead of 0.8 seconds. It might not seem like much if you're just hearing me say it, but when you're in the heat of the moment, you realize that this makes air blasting Demo Knights, Uber Pushes, and projectiles way more punishing, as you'll be vulnerable to enemy fire for a much longer period. This also applies when extinguishing teammates. There is no bonus for extinguishing teammates other than the health you gain from it. Rather than having a 200 fuel count for continuous attacking, the Dragon's Fury uses rounds instead of the usual fuel for other flamethrowers, which decreases your total number of shots to 40. One fireball will use 1 round, but air blasting will use up to 5 rounds. This limits you to 8 air blasts in total. Now for the real stats. After explaining everything, we've modified the original text to make it more consistent with what the weapon actually does. It may not be 100% accurate, but it's better than what we were shown before. Let's get one thing straight. Do not even think about classifying the Dragon's Fury as just another random flamethrower. I've explained before that it shoots projectiles rather than flame particles, therefore think of it anything other than a flamethrower. You need to think like you're holding a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher, but with no blast damage. It's quick, it kills fast, and you're very easily punished for missing shots. Truthfully, the Dragon's Fury Pyro is more of a subclass than a weapon switch. It changes the core aspects of the class and gives you new pros and cons. So, let's make a comparison with the Flamethrower Pyro versus the Dragon's Fury Pyro. This will discuss all of the flamethrowers, not just stock. They're all similar enough to each other so that what we say here will be applied to pretty much all of them. Despite being labeled as an offensive class, Pyro is quite the flexible merc. There's the obvious W plus M1 strategy from the early days of TF2, along with air blast that can reflect projectiles, negating cocky soldiers and Demo Man, pushing away both charging Demo Knights and Ubered opponents, as well as atomic punch scouts. This means that Pyro can negate pushes from the enemy team no matter how well they're coordinated.
Good!
Pyro's constant flurry of flames works best in tight corridors or areas he has to hold off. Oh, and obviously the flamethrower works great as a spy checking tool. Pyro's flamethrower works well with the secondary weapons too, leading to combo potential, or as an ambush tool, catching opponents way off guard. Let's talk about aiming. Now I know that when most players hear the words pyro and aim in the same sentence, they freak out because there's no way they can be used in the same sentence together like that. But think about all the practice you get with your secondaries. Reflecting rockets takes skill as well, so next time think twice before saying pyros can't aim. Or, in layman's terms, get good and practice with your secondary and your melee. However, the damage from the flamethrower isn't fast enough to take out an engineer's nest efficiently, nor can it stand up to any of NG's sentries, and even with a solo engineer, the DPS from most of his shotguns can outperform the flamethrower. Heavy is a similar case. Heavy's miniguns and health give him the upper hand against pyros. Even enemy pyros are an issue, as they're basically an engineer, except Afterburn is not an issue for them.
You look at my tongue tag, son.
Also, despite Pyro's constant flame particles, scouts are able to run very fast, in case you didn't know. This makes it very hard to track them with the flamethrower. A scout's arsenal can make quick work of Pyros, and the Mad Mill can extinguish flames from both him and his team. The same goes for Sniper's Dorati and an unscoped shot from the Sydney Sleeper. Oh, and speaking of Sniper, if he has the Darwin's Danger Shield, you will be at a major disadvantage ever since Valve decided that Sniper counters Pyro. Now, let's compare all of that to the Dragon's Fury Pyro. With everything mentioned before, and all of the knowledge that I just crammed into your heads, time for you to throw all that out and forget it because the strategies for Flamethrower Pyro do not work here. Let's go over Pyro's defense, his support role, and their weaknesses. Air Blast recovery is double. Spy checking turns into spy killing, and switching to a secondary weapon won't give you enough time to continue the damage bonus and firing speed from the Dragon's Fury. However, Scouts, Engineers, Heavies, and enemy Pyros are much easier to fight now, since you can outdamage 3 of the aforementioned classes. Heavies are now easy targets due to the size of their hitboxes and slow speed. Plus, destroying an Engineer nest is easier than ever with the Dragon Fury's base damage on top of the penetrating fireballs that can kill turtling Engies quickly! Not taking the shield of the Wrangler into consideration, here you can see the health of multiple buildings and how they all have the exact same amount. Reminder, you will always deal 75 damage to all buildings. No ramp up nor fall off is applied. Now, when it comes to enemy players, if we only take base damage into account, not damage ramp up, fall off, or afterburn, and assuming that you hit all your shots with the center of the fireball on a non-overhealed, non-burning target, do the math here, you can kill them this easily! Let's talk about aiming again, because now is when you take the hours you spent on dodgeball servers and use that training to its fullest potential, with the power of the Dragon's Fury in your hand, and assuming you hit all your shots and your tracking is on point, you'll be nearly unstoppable since your firing speed gets faster the more accurate you are. Your opponents will melt in no time thanks to your excellent aiming skills! TLDR, it's WM1, except you gotta get good. I hope that with everything I've said here, you can see that Pyro's main aspects as a class change with the Dragon's Fury, going from a class that can do multiple tasks to finally becoming the offensive powerhouse he was always labeled originally. Then, you can become the Pyro main you were always destined to be! With the Flamethrower, you shoot flame particles, then follow it up with a secondary weapon, and then maybe deal the finishing blow with a melee weapon, or just the secondary again if you're good enough. But the Dragon's Fury does not promote this sort of play, as it requires the primary to be out at all times when engaging an enemy. You need to basically lobotomize your memories of the Flamethrower and do the opposite of its strategy. This time, you use the secondary as sort of a jab, then you finish the opponent with the Dragon's Fury! With everything we've discussed on the Dragon's Fury, it's time to talk about loadouts.
Loadout number 1, the Scorcher!
This is the closest to combo pyro you can get with the Dragon's Fury, as the Scorch Shot's knockback on hit locks enemies in place, which can then be followed up with 3 easy fireballs for a massive 245 base damage. Even if the enemy is overhealed, this can kill 4 out of 9 classes. Brilliant, isn't it? For comparison, here's Blue Team with no overheal, and here's Blue Team with max overheal. This video made by Lister explains quite well how to do the Scorch Shot combo with the Dragon's Fury. He also mentions an additional Air Blast combo that I won't mention here, so you just gotta go check out the video for yourself if you want to go find out.
Loadout number 2, the Texan's worst nightmare!
We've already gone over the Dragon's Fury's base damage against buildings, but when combined with the Homewrecker, it can make an Ubered Pyro a deadly force against Engineer nests. After all, one of the Homewrecker's upsides is that it deals 100% more damage to Engineer buildings. Here are those stats again from earlier, again with Wrangling not taken into account. Note though, the Homewrecker will always deal 130 damage to all buildings. No ramp up or fall off is applied. It's really just a game of zapping him with the Dragon's Fury and then going in for the kill with your big old hammer. Loadout number 3, run, jump, and burn. Channel your inner Shadow the Hedgehog with this loadout. Now you can become a fast pyro by utilizing the detonator's explosive flare to boost yourself into the front lines, as well as the Power Jack's 15% boost on movement when held. The detonator can also be used to burn enemies around corners or from far away distances.
Loadout number 4, the Extinguisher's Payoff.
With this loadout, you're taking on a more supportive role, needing to be near your team to get the benefits of the weapons. The Man Melter can actually benefit here since it replaces the Dragon's Fury's Air Blast penalty. This way, you can save your Air Blast for incoming projectiles and leave the extinguishing to the Man Melter. The only issues with the Man Melter is that it's a bit buggy and it requires an enemy pyro or a Cowmangler soldier to be on the enemy team in order to be, at its most effective. When it works though, it works. Thank you for watching this video. As I mentioned at the start, these wonderful tips and tricks are brought to you by Defunkin' Scout. I asked for their permission to turn this guide into a video, and they happily obliged. So once again, this video wasn't my idea. Go shower them with praise. This being for more experienced players was brought up at the beginning, but if you happen to be relatively new and this sparked your interest enough, then get out there and get practicing. Special thanks to Tazzan for the Paper Mario style chapter transition, and here is some fan art for my Discord server that I really like. Catch you guys in the next video.